Okay, this is a video for Thetis 2.10.3.7, a new release, and it's using the new splash screens and images and icons and everything from Geordie, Echo Alpha 3 Charlie Lima, who won the contest on the Discord server to select some new splash screen, etc. And about 80 or so of the members voted on 7 or 8 submissions, and Geordie's was selected, so they're now in Thetis in this version. So I'm going to quickly go over some new features, some important ones, and then we're going to take a quick look at the change log, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so we just started up, and first of all we're going to look at this new filter view. So if we go into multimeters, add container, scroll right to the bottom, filter display, and it is what it says it is on the tin. It displays the filter. It is a passband viewer. So if we were to focus on this strong signal here, you can see that he's up in there, and if we were to alter the scaling of that, which we can do, we'll switch on auto height for the container, and then we'll make it 0.5. So there is that signal, and we can grab these filter edges and move them out like so. The plus or minus 10k is based on your filter widths, which is defined in general filters, maximum filter widths here. But you can fit to view like so if you want, but obviously you won't be able to drag out further than that now. And you can do things like have separate zooms, so on receive it can be 2 times zoom, so like so. And then because transmit min and max is plus or minus 20k, you could put a 4 in there to scale it twice as much, so they'd look similar. So if I was to let's just have 0 power here, you can see that the transmit filter is perfectly in line. And if we flip to a dummy load, put some power out here, MW0LGE, and of course you can scale this like so, and it scales the view over there. And of course, if you alter your filter widths whilst you're transmitting, you can do that from here. You can use snap lines like so, so it will snap you to some predetermined widths, and you can set those in general filters, and they're here. So if we wanted to get rid of this 8000, we could just take it out of there, comma separated. And if we wanted to add something in at 3500, we could, and there it appeared. You saw it just appear there, and it's by there. So there we are, MW0LGE. So this is the view, and we can turn snapline off. We can have it in sideband mode, so it will automatically flip around based on sideband. Let's get an antenna again. We can do things like just pan adaptive view, waterfall only, panifold, or none if you don't want any display. You can also show the characteristics of the filter. So at the moment it's an estimate for the slope, which is actually based on half notch width, minimum notch width. If you go to DSP options and you change the filter size, you'll notice how it actually alters. And if we zoom out, you can see the slopes on them. And if we were to go to a much bigger filter size, you see that they straighten up. But what this system also does is it uses Warren's new filter simulator that he's added into WDSP, and he generates the filter actual accurate filter data and then passes. I grab it and then render it out into DirectX so we can view the filter characteristics. So let's zoom in a bit and show the characteristics. And we're, by the look of that, we're on a BH4, which is steeper edges but not quite as deep. So if we go to BH7, you'll see, and if we were to zoom in, you'd be able to see. Let's go for maximum zoom here, 10. If we go to BH7 and we flip to BH4, you can see it's a little bit sharper on BH4, but the depths are not as deep. And by the way, that value for the depth at the moment, negative 250 dB, is this bottom line, this horizontal line above that text. So if we were to adjust this value and bring that skirt down to where it just drops off, you can see that that is negative 117 dB down. And if we were to go to BH7s and back to the appearance again, we could see how far down that one drops off, which is somewhere down there, which is 200 dB down. And if you were to alter all the scaling factors and everything for this to align it, then you do a noise transmission, you'll see that the RF, because these filter views use duplex mode always, the RF, the sampled RF, will perfectly fill the filter shape defined by Warren's simulator. And the simulator can actually provide much higher resolution data than we see here. If I was to just move this up a bit so we can easily see it, and you go into DSP, high resolution filter characteristics, and there's a tooltip there which explains that there is some impact on performance when you do this. And then they are, and you think, what's that? Well, we can have a look. It's like that because there are so many lines going up and down that it's basically averaged it out and filled it in, but we can zoom in. So we zoom in at 10, so that this RX and TX is a global zoom, and then you can add on a zoom based on mode. So we can put in 10 here, which will zoom in there, and then we can put in, I don't know, 6 here, and we can zoom in a bit more, or another, up that to 10, and you can see the detail that is actually in the data. So it is, yeah, it's quite amazing really what we managed to achieve with this. And of course it entirely changes based on the filter characteristics that you've picked here. So you know, if you want something with that filter size and that window type, and you scale it, you can see how it behaves. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So there we are, and we'll just set that back, turn the characteristics off there, and then this whole load of options here, colors, the rendering types for the waterfall. And incidentally, the waterfall is not using the averaging from the waterfall here. It's using this information from the pan adapter. So that's how that's done at the moment, if you were wondering. So that's that item. The next one to have a look at is, the next item is, let's just remove this one. And incidentally, I should add, you can have as many as you want of these. They share the same analyzer, so a secondary analyzer gets added for receiver 1 and receiver 2. And then if you have like 3 displays here, for instance, that we've got, they will be sharing the analyzer, the duplicate analyzer that is assigned to RX1, and of course a 1 by 1 would give you a square, so a vertical ratio of 1. And you can alter the font scaling and, you know, all the usual stuff, updates per second for waterfall and everything. But yes, you can have as many of those as you want, different layouts and different structures. You can do things with this as well. If you drag this, that's like that with a mouse. You can mouse wheel it. And see this red, the red text? Let's increase the text size so you can see it easier on the screen. So when the text is highlighted in red, it's whichever text is closest to the mouse pointer. That's what the mouse wheel will work on. So you can just do that, and that will always do steps of 10. If you hold shift down, it will do steps of 1, like so. If you do control, it will always align to the 10th. So that's some settings there, and you can right click up here on the, you can grab that of course and do a shift, or you can right click up there and it will reset it back to 0. So there we are, and we've got things like we can fit it in there. We can control right click to put a notch in. We can turn the notch system on here. With that, of course, we can do DSP MNF virtual approximation of notches, so it will carve a hole. And you may think to yourself, why is that so wide when the notch is, you know, 50 hertz wide? Why is the notch that wide? Because there is a minimum notch width, and it's defined by your filter size. So if we were to increase the filter size, the minimum notch width would get much narrower. So just bear that in mind. And you can right click on these notches to bring up the usual window, and you can delete them from there. Control right click, like I say, adds them, and you can drag them around as you'd expect. They appear on all of them, so you can drag them around wherever. And of course, if you were to drag them around here, which you can do, they move there as well. So that's all handled. And it shows your filter size up the top and mode. You can add a notch filter right into the center of the passband by hitting plus MNF, and that will turn the notch system off and on exactly the same as pressing this down here. So there we are. That's the filter view window, or the passband viewer. So scrap that. Let's add the next item that we're going to look at, which is called the dial display. So this is a VFO dial, like a touchpad, and very handy for people who are using pads and whatnot and remote setups. So I will also add on to it the tune step buttons, and I will just increase the column so it's sensible, and we can see how this works. So there's some config here. So at the moment for the dial, I'm going to change that to 9. So every 9 degrees it will apply a frequency step. So if we spin this, so that's now applying 100 hertz every 9 degrees of rotation. And if we were just, you know, put on 1, then it would be, you know, 1 hertz per 9 degrees. So yeah, that's how that works. If you can pick on VFO A or VFO B, like so. You can lock the VFO that you're currently on. So we've locked A, and then if we flip to B, we could lock B as well. So that's how that works. And then there's this acceleration mode, which all the settings are here. So we'll increment a tune step at 540 degrees, decrement it per second, decrement at 360 degrees per second, so I'll show you how that works. If we turn it on, we start spinning, we'll see a blue line. Blue means it's going to slow down if it can. Green, it's staying at the same speed. Red is accelerating, so you can see the tune step had moved up to 500 there, but it's come back down, so let's just whiz down the bottom a minute. So if we start turning now, it'll go green, then red, and then it'll start accelerating up through the tune steps, and we will eventually get faster and faster. If we slow down to blue, it will drop back down to where it was as you rotate. And if it's green, it will hold where it is. You can alter the maximum amount of steps it can go up and all that sort of stuff. So there's a whole bunch of config there and colors and things. And you can have the so when you drag this, notice how if we give a tune step of 10 will do. So we drag this and it's some sort of random number, but if we use mouse wheel, it will always align with tune step, and that's that option there, align frequency with tune step, so it will go up in tens essentially. If you have this off, then it could end up being any sort of numbers. So if you were there, see how it's just something dropped there, just stepping in tens. So you turn this on and it will align properly. This should always show both VFOs. It is for RX2, so you don't need to have two containers essentially. So that's that control. Something else that's changed, web image. If we have a look at web image can now have a it now has a 4-character ID, and it has the ability to be used as the spectral area in the background. So we can tick this on and it will appear in the background, but as you can see, it's crazy stretched. Well, there's a new option in display appearance general, maintain aspect ratio, which will do that, exactly that. However, what you can do with the web image, obviously you can add another one, so we'll have another web image and we'll put it onto something else. So okay, we won't have that one. Is that okay? That's a different one, right? So we've got two web images there. The top one, the red one, is 4-character ID that. So we want to display it, but after 5 seconds, go to 4-character ID something else. So we want to move on to the green one. So we'll go down to the green one and we'll copy its 4-character ID and we'll put it on this red one and we'll paste it in there with just Control V. So after 5 seconds, this red one will swap out. It should do. But it can only do that if the one that it's going to is allowed to be used as a background. So we turn that on and there we go. It's already moved. Now we can make this one cycle back up to the red one because it can go to a 4-character ID that's being used as a background. So we can copy the red one, put it into this bottom one, and you will notice in a moment it will flip to the red one. Then the red one will sit there for however long and then flip to the green one. And you can use these arrows here to follow your chain, so you know you can have them all over the place. You can have them in different containers. These 4-character IDs are sort of global, so yeah, you can do that, and you don't need to have the thing displayed for it to still work. It is one of the only container types that will still operate when it's not visible. All the others go to sleep essentially when that happens. But yeah, so there we are. So I shall get rid of those two. So if I remove those, they will disappear. And it will lose your, if you had a background on here before, then that'll be lost. You'll have to reselect the skin or re-go to the skin. There we go. It's a known thing at the moment. I may fix it one day. So there we are. Right, let's bring up the changelog. So here's the changelog. Let me just cover that as well. Auto attenuate stuff. I've added a bunch of auto attenuate. Automatically attenuates when there's an ADC overload. So you see an ADC overload here every so often. Well, this is permanently monitoring that. So it's in general options 1. Auto attenuate RX1. If that's ticked on, it will increment the attenuation. So in this mode, it will move to -10 next, then -20, etc. Step attenuator, it will add 1 dB, then 2, then it may decide that it wants to add 4, etc. It will speed up as there's more overloads happening. And then after a certain while, you can have it unwind those that it's applied as well. So it's very handy for me and my next door neighbour who transmits, and my radio doesn't like it too much, so it automatically attenuates itself now, which is quite cool. And there is one also for transmit here. So auto ATT on TX when pure signal automatic is off. And it can undo it as well, so that's there for that. There's one other protection thing I've added, which you can see here. Reduce power if protected on SWR. So we see the red sort of halo that appears if there's a high SWR and we see a high SWR message. Well, if you turn that on, it will instantly, and I mean instantly, within, well, worst case scenario 10 milliseconds, but it'd be more like 1 millisecond, it will cut the power right down, and it will leave it cut whilst you've got MOX enabled. So you have to cycle MOX for it to clear, essentially. And it will stay red, it will stay saying high SWR, power folded back. Even though there's no power literally going out, it will show it on the screen as red, like a warning. So just be aware of that. And of course, if you've got this, ignore when below a certain amount of power. You won't see any of that happen anyway until it's above 35 watts and there's a load of bad SWR. So that's that. We've got pruning backups and stuff now in the database manager. And you can right click on setup here to bring that straight up. By the way, you don't have to go through the menus. Just right click. And if we go into database manager, down the bottom right, prune auto backup. So any backup automatically taken, and you know, I've got quite a few in here, it will automatically prune them after a certain amount of days, and you can see it's starting to do it here. And there's some info about what it does there. If you want to read it, just hover over it and you can read that. There's been a whole bunch of TCI messages added. You can read up on that. We've looked at the filter item, added some command line options as well. Check the changelog out for that. And we've looked at the dial display. So yeah, go through all these notes and see what you can find in there. There's lots of information. Added a splash screen folder to OpenHPSDR. So OpenHPSDR folder, as you know, is the sort of root of everything. So Thetis 64 with database folder and all that is there, but OpenHPSDR holds skins and meters and things. It now also has splash screen folder, so that'll be created in there. And if you put a 400 by 320 PNG in there, and it has to be those sizes, it will be used for the splash screen. So I've got some of the entries here that we had for the competition. So I'll use Ernst's entry here. And I'll just put that in there. You can put 20 in here, and it will pick a random one out of those 20 each time it starts up, but as there's only one, it will be fixed to that. So now if I shut down and start Thetis up, it will appear with Ernst's splash screen on there. But Geordie EA3 CL, his splash screen has been hard baked into Thetis, so that's the default one at the moment. But we will probably run that contest every time we go for a big release like this, you know, a big final release. So that'll be a cool thing to keep an eye out for if you want, if you're a budding artist. So yeah, let's carry on with this. Looking at this, lots of changes. One of the ones which caused a bit confusion recently was the AM filter edges. Previously, if you dragged one side, it would only apply to that one side, but I changed it so it did both sides, which seemed to be the normal. And then if you had some QRM or something that you wanted to adjust or shift, then you could do it by holding shift key down. So at the moment it does both sides, but if you want to prevent this, then hold shift. There's a couple of other things. Everything's been updated to the latest libraries and stuff that we use from Microsoft and everywhere. And then there's tons and tons of fixes, and you should probably work down through these and have a read to see which ones you might have been affected by. There is a very important one which this version resolves, and that was that one there. Redraw of the controls on the window became very slow under certain circumstances after that version of a Windows update, and that's now been resolved. Timeout timer issues and all sorts of things. Serialization data going out to the database was broken slightly for diversity, so memories became missing, stuff like that. So there's loads. This one was one I just did earlier today, which was quite interesting. If you had the wideband display up and you clicked it again before closing it, then the bandpass filter bypass state would not be correctly returned. So there we are, that's fixed. So I think that's pretty much it for this version. Just like to say cheers to everybody over on the Discord server. There's about 80 testers now, I think 70-80 testers that are in a special channel on there where they're all actively testing and getting access to these new early access versions. So if you're interested in that, pop over to Discord and say hello. The link for the Discord Thetis server will be in the video description below. And there's various things happening there from time to time, which is pretty cool. So there we are. I'm going to release a video sometime after this one, maybe not today, perhaps tomorrow, which will outline how to build a special meter. So keep an eye out for that, for something that I've been working on. And I think that's pretty much it for this. So yeah, if you've got any issues with it or whatever, put it on GitHub or come visit us on the Discord server and we can chat about it on there. But yeah, awesome. It's certainly feeling a lot healthier these days, Thetis, than it used to, so it's going in the right direction. Alright, I think that's been long enough, and thankfully I managed to complete this video. Because it's taken 3 attempts so far for various reasons. But yeah, cool. Alright, cheers guys. Catch you next time. Cheers.